Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. We are back and we're better. First full week of the new year. I hope everybody's off to a good start, and I hope everybody's excited for what this new year is going to bring. That's a lot of new years in that sentence, but we're going to keep on moving. This episode is going to be on 4 things that are quietly affecting our day-to-day lives, that are quietly affecting how we feel and how we navigate and how we move in our physical reality. And I think it's really important to become conscious of the unconscious, to become aware of the things that are having such a profound influence on our life that we may not be aware of, right? And the first thing that we're going to get into is emotional suppression. Emotional suppression. I don't think people realize how much emotions are being suppressed on a day-to-day basis, or how much we are suppressing our emotions on a day-to-day basis. I don't think people really realize how much we're doing that. And it's so important to understand what is going on inside of yourself and to make sure you're not falling into that cycle of just continuing to suppress your emotions, because it creates so much frustration, rigidity, stress, anxiety, depression in your life. Dr. Gabor Mate, amazing therapist and psychologist, he says, suppressing emotions increases stress and risk of physical illness. Literally, suppressing your emotions increases stress and physical illness. Think about that. That's how severe suppressing your emotions are. That is how severe suppressing your emotions are. And it says, repressed emotions can manifest as anxiety, depression, and chronic tension. So true. Think about, I was with a friend recently, and they were telling me how tense they feel. And a lot of times, the tension that you feel in your body, whether it's in your shoulders, it's in your back, in your legs, whatever it is, it's actually coming from a suppression of emotions within yourself. Like, your body stores trauma, your body stores emotional baggage in certain parts of yourself. Right? So if you're not navigating those emotions, if you're not expressing those emotions in a healthy way, you're going to feel it physically in certain parts of your body. I know for me, when I was going through those seasons of where I felt incredibly depressed, I was feeling stressed all the time, I was constantly overthinking, I was dealing a lot with anxiety, that's when my body was aching the most. I felt a lot of stress and tension in my back, in my hips, in my shoulders. And I was like, yo, what the heck is this? And you try so hard to work on that physically, right? Going to the gym or stretching or doing mobility, but it doesn't really help that much, because the root cause of it is actually emotional suppression, which is crazy. And a lot of people don't think about. They constantly think, or they constantly try to fix that tension with physical things, with physical activity, which is important. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of it comes from the lack of being able to express our emotions and get what's on the inside out. That stuff builds up, and where it's going to store is in your body. It's in your body, and the more tension and stress you have in your body, the more prone you are to illness and sickness. That's a real thing. There was actually a study done, now that we're talking about it. This is really interesting. There was actually a study done, and they took 10 people in Group A and 10 people in Group B, right? Group A and Group B. In Group A, they gave them the healthiest food, the healthiest diet you could eat. But they put them in very, very high stress environments, high stress situations. In Group B, they let them eat whatever they wanted, but they put them in very low stress, peaceful environments. At the end of 20 weeks, the people who were actually more healthier were the people with low stress, who ate whatever they wanted. And it just goes to show how important stress is, or how prominent stress is on your health and how you feel physically, emotionally, and mentally, right? Now, we're going to get to that place to where obviously you want to be conscious of what you're eating and putting in your body, but you're also focusing on really navigating your emotions, navigating your the way that you feel, so that you're not creating so much stress in your life, right? Stress is going to happen. It's inevitable. But being able to navigate it in the right way that allows you to feel more at peace and not allow that stress to become so overwhelming can help you tremendously. It can help you tremendously. I think of all the old people that I see just walking every day and living so peacefully and doing what they do, and then you'll go see them eat like a hamburger or whatever it is, or something like hella greasy or fried, but they're just enjoying life. They have low stress, and that low stress is what allows them to live for so long, right? And please go do your own research on this, because I'm telling you, the things that I've seen on stress correlating to health is insane. So I really try my best to live a low stress, peaceful life. Obviously easier said than done, but with intention and awareness, you can start to make moves towards that path. It says common suppressed emotions include anger, sadness, and fear. Emotional repression often stems from a fear of conflict or a fear of vulnerability. That is so true. Oh my Lord. When I was especially, involved with people in relationships and things like that, friends, intimate, whatever it is, family, the amount of times that I was afraid of confrontation or afraid of conflict, and that made me repress or hold back certain feelings or emotions. I mean, when I tell you that is one of the most uncomfortable feelings, and you can literally feel when you're holding back what you really want to say or what you really feel or what you really want to express. You can feel that internally, and it really is painful and stressful to keep all of that in, right? But a lot of times our fear of conflict, our fear of confrontation makes us keep what we need to express within ourselves, keep it inside. And that is not healthy, to keep all those emotions and all that tension within yourself. It's not healthy at all. Or the fear of vulnerability, especially as men out there. Like, we grow up thinking that vulnerability is a feminine thing. It's not masculine, it's weak, right? And so what do we do when we feel certain things or we have all these emotions, bubbling up within ourselves? We keep them inside. And a lot of times they mask themselves as anger. What I heard about anger, or what I learned about anger is a secondary emotion, right? So usually anger is just masking what is really trying to express itself, right? But as men, specifically as men, we use anger as a defense mechanism or as a protecting mechanism to guard what was really going on in there, right? And I want to let y'all know, especially my men out there, one of the most masculine things you can do is learn how to be emotionally intelligent and learn emotional regularity. Learn how to be emotionally intelligent and learn emotional regularity. Learn how to navigate and express your emotions in a healthy way, right? Because there is a way where you can express, or you try to just emotionally dump on people. That's not healthy. You don't want to just be constantly being overly emotional, just throwing all your problems and feelings on people. That's not what I mean. But there is a way to express how you're feeling, express your emotions, express what's going on within yourself in a healthy and aligned way. And that is a very, very masculine thing to do. I need you to understand that. Get the vulnerability is not masculine idea out of your mind and throw that into the trash. Because vulnerability is one of the most masculine things you can do if it's done in an aligned and authentic way, not in an unhealthy way, right? Because it could get very, very gray in there. It could get very, very gray in there. It says avoiding emotions leads to emotional buildup, which eventually explodes or implodes. That's a fact. A lot of times when you see people, whether it's road rage or they lash out at somebody, it wasn't that one instant that caused all of that anger or all of that frustration or all of that explosion. No, it was the accumulation of little things from, whether it was that day or the past few weeks, where they just were allowing all that buildup to happen within themselves. And then something happened externally where it was the tipping point where they just exploded. And that's what you see. But I'm telling you, when you avoid your emotions over a long period of time and you just keep on doing that, it creates so much inner turmoil, and it will come out on the people that you love, on the people that you're closest to. It will come out in the wrong environments, in the wrong spaces, and it can really, really put you in tough situations. It really can. It really, really can. I want to do more of a deep dive into this bullet point, but I'm going to say it because it's hitting me very profound. It says suppressed emotions create unconscious patterns of behavior that perpetuate suffering. Wow. Suppressed emotions create unconscious patterns of behavior that perpetuate suffering. That's basically, the more you suppress your emotions, the more it's causing you to act a certain way. And the more you act a certain way, the more it becomes a pattern, right? And that pattern can literally perpetuate suffering. Because you got to think, if you keep allowing yourself, or you keep keeping all of that stuff that needs to be expressed within yourself, and you're trying to navigate your daily life through that, that's what's going to express itself in your daily habits and in the things that you do and how you move, right? And if you're operating from that place of not expressing what you need to express, of keeping all of the baggage and emotions and feelings within yourself, if that's how you're navigating, then it's not going to lead to a healthy and aligned life, right? And it's going to cause more suffering in your life. That's why it's so important to not suppress your emotions and to find spaces where you can express them, which we're going to get into. How to navigate suppressed emotions, how to navigate expressing your emotions in a healthy way. The first thing it says is name your feelings. Practice emotional literacy by identifying specific emotions. Create space for expression, journaling, breathwork, or talking with a trusted person. Those two things are incredibly important. I'm going to go with the second one first because I think you need to really carve out spaces in your life where you can express how you feel. You can express the emotions that are going on within yourself. You need to have spaces and people you can go to express those things. One of the biggest things that helped me tremendously when I was really going through it was journaling. Being able to have all this stuff in my mind and in my body and being able to journal it and actually see it on a piece of paper helped me gain so much clarity through those times of confusion, those times of where my emotions were wilding. I was feeling all these different things and I didn't know what was going on. I was lacking clarity within myself. Writing it out and journaling it helps you to take a different perspective and actually see what's going on within yourself on a piece of paper. And just that in itself can help you to navigate, oh, there it is, or oh, there it is, right? That's one thing. Meditation is incredibly important and incredibly valuable for navigating your emotions, because what meditation allows you to become aware of what emotions are bubbling within yourself. A lot of times we feel certain things and we have no idea what we're feeling, or we have no idea where it's actually stemming from. Meditation gives you that space to become aware and pinpoint where certain things are coming from and what you're actually feeling. And here's the misconception. The misconception of meditation and creating space for these things is that when it feels uncomfortable, you're doing something wrong. No, you are not. No, you are not. You have to understand that discomfort is the inner turmoil trying to figure itself out, and that creates discomfort. That does not feel good. It's not easy to navigate, right? So you have to mentally understand that when you go into these spaces, it's not supposed to be easy to navigate these things. So when you get faced with discomfort or hardship, or it becomes incredibly challenging, don't resort back and think you're doing something wrong or think that you can't do it. Yes, you can. I'm telling you, you can, right? Because I was there. I remember in those times where I tried to close my eyes and become aware of what I was going through. And it was one of the most uncomfortable, difficult things I ever had to do in my life. And so many times I would just get up and run away. I'll be like, nah, I can't do that. I got to go grab my phone. I got to just go be around people. I cannot just sit with that stuff. But the longer you run away, the longer you prolong the issue, right? So understand that when you feel the discomfort, when you feel the challenge and it's difficult, you're doing it right. You're not doing it wrong. You're doing it right. So create those spaces, you know what I mean? And work on using those spaces to understand what you're feeling, to start naming certain emotions, labeling certain emotions for yourself. Like, I know that whenever I feel like this weird tightness in my chest, it's anxiety. It's stemming from what I like to label as anxiety, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an anxious person. I don't like labeling myself as something, right? But I understand, okay, the label I have for that little tightness in my chest where I feel like I'm a little like something's off, or I start to overthink a little bit, okay, it's anxiety. Now that I know it's anxiety, I can sit with myself and figure out, where is it stemming from? Like, what in my physical reality or in my internal reality is causing me to feel that way? Right? And now that's where you create a healthy relationship with your emotions, rather than feeling that anxiety and then feeling like there's something wrong with you and then starting to tweak out, and then you try to go run to all these things to try to fix. Whoa. A lot of times your emotions are just signals from within yourself about something internally that needs your attention. That's all it is. Something internally that needs your attention. So when I feel that tightness, I label it as, okay, I'm getting a little anxious. Maybe I'm overthinking a little bit. I need to carve out space for myself. That's what I know I need in those moments. It's two things. I need to carve out space for myself, and then I need to go to people, right, that I have in my very, very close circle to talk to. Like, I know there's certain people I can go to when I'm overthinking or when I'm feeling those feelings of anxiety, to go talk to, just express what's going on. And a lot of times just talking it out helps me to gain clarity about, oh, okay, that's what it is. And now I feel a lot more at peace. Something I work on with my coaching is creating a space for the people that I'm working with to navigate and find the answers for themselves, whether it's through the right questioning or whether it's just through active listening. Sometimes people just need a space where they can express what is going on within here and in here and actually hear themselves talk it out. Because when you give somebody that space, I promise you 9 times out of 10, they'll be able to figure it out for themselves. But a lot of people just need those spaces, and we don't have those enough in society. But this is where you need to take control of your life and create those spaces in your reality. You need to create those spaces in your environment. You need to carve out spaces where you can express what you're feeling and what you're thinking and your emotions, right? So find the people that you can express and have real, genuine conversations with, right? Gain clarity and be able to, open up in an aligned, authentic way. And then find habits and tools and things that you can go to when you might not have anybody to have that expression, to gain that clarity, right? Like journaling, like breath work, like meditation, like talking with a trusted friend, going for a walk, right? Going for a walk. Something that also helped me was listening to podcasts. Then this was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do a podcast, because I understood how incredibly impactful listening to a podcast was when I was going through so much. Like when I was constantly overthinking, or I was anxious, or I was just feeling depressed. Being able to click on a podcast and listen to 1 or 2 people talk about certain things that I was experiencing helped me so much to just feel at peace and to understand that it's going to be okay. Because I'm listening to people right now where they went through a similar situation and look where they are. It's going to be okay. And it was very comforting for me, right? Another thing that helps tremendously with releasing those suppressed emotions is body-focused release. So physical exercise, dancing, right? Going for a walk, like we said, doing all that, running, whatever it is, right? Like literally these things really help release those emotions. One of the best things for me is physical exercise. Whenever I go for a run or whenever I go lift, the way I feel after is insane. Like it's so crazy how you can feel all this, emotional turmoil within yourself. You can feel like there's a lot of frustration going on internally. And then you can go work out, go for a run, do something physically. And then after, you just feel so clear. You just feel so much more, wow, okay, I needed that. You know what I mean? I needed that. And this is what living intentionally means. Living intentionally means you understanding what you need from yourself and intentionally giving yourself those things. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm a little bit stressed, I know I need to work out. I need to prioritize my workouts. So I'm going to be intentional with my physical exercise. I know when I'm overthinking or I'm feeling a little anxious, I need to be intentional with who I talk to. So I know that I'm going to go talk to the people that I trust to talk to in those moments, right? I know that when I'm feeling I'm lacking certain clarity within myself, or I'm feeling a little frustrated, or I'm feeling a little like there's too much going on, I need to just take space for me, right? I need to go listen to a podcast. I need to go for a drive, right? I need to go for a walk and just take space for myself, right? Intentional. Ooh, this is good. Shoot, this whole podcast could be on emotions, but we got a few more, and then we'll move to the second thing. But it says, accept all emotions without judgment. This is vital. Stop labeling emotions as good or bad. Understand they're just emotions. They're just energy and motion within yourself. And like we said earlier, emotions are just signals telling you there is something within yourself that you need to tend to. That's all it is. But every time we label emotions as good or bad, it changes our perception of when we're feeling that thing. So, prime example, if you think that anxiety is a bad thing, every time you feel those things, you're going to feel like something's completely wrong, something's off. You're going to start, oh my God, you're going to start internalizing that. You're going to feel like you're messed up. No, You have to think of it like this. Think of it like this. If you're driving a vehicle and let's say your passenger tire, your front passenger tire is flat, you want your car to signal the flat tire signal, right? And you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, that's the word. No. Okay, I see it. And I'm thankful that my car has the ability to tell me that signal because now I know I need to tend to that tire, right? But if every time a signal comes up, you're so quick to label it as a negative or bad thing, and then you think there's something wrong with you, you're going to start internalizing that, and that's going to come out in how you see yourself. It's going to come out in a lack of self-worth or that, oh my gosh, I'm messing up in a certain area. Why am I not? No, Emotions are just energy and emotion, and they come up when there's certain things within yourself that you need to tend to. They're not good or bad. They just are, right? So when you're feeling anxiety, sit with it. Okay, why am I feeling this way? Where is it coming from? Let me take time. Meditation. Let me take time to journal out. Let me take time to maybe talk it out with a trusted friend or family member, right? And let me navigate this. And a lot of times when you really navigate in a healthy way, you realize it's not even coming from a bad place. Oh, I just needed to give myself this. Or, oh, it's because I keep going around this type of people or these type of environments, or I keep watching this type of stuff, right? So then you become grateful that you felt that way because it led you to finding something that you actually need to get away from, to shift, to heal, right? And that's all emotions are. They're just signals. They're not good or bad. They're just signals. So avoid labeling them as good or bad, because when you do that, you immediately take yourself out of the observer and you start to identify with them. Do not identify with your emotions. You are not your emotions. You're the observer of your emotions, right? You're not your emotions. You're the observer of your emotions, right? Why is my internal state feeling this way? Let me sit with my body. Let me sit with myself and figure out where these emotions are coming from, right? You're just the vessel, the vessel where the emotions like to curate, right? So I hope that makes sense. Use creative outlets too. That's a huge thing. Use creative outlets. I have, some of the kids that I coach, their main thing is drawing or coloring. Whenever they're like feeling overwhelmed or, I'm just like, hey, let's get the notebook out, draw me something. Or I'll even say, draw me 3 pictures expressing what you're feeling. And that in their moment, in that in itself will help them tremendously just to navigate what they're feeling and to see it and then to feel more at peace, right? So you can use that too. And then the last thing when it comes to your emotions is self-compassion. Understand, as a human being, you are going to feel all emotions. You're going to experience all emotions. So give yourself grace and compassion when you're feeling certain things, even though they might not be the desirable things to feel. Give yourself compassion that, yeah, you're a human being and it's okay to feel these type of things. You are not meant to feel good all the time. You are not meant to feel joyful and happy all the time. You're gonna go through seasons where you're experiencing sadness and grief and frustration and stress and anxiety and overthinking. Give yourself grace and compassion. Stop thinking that when you feel those things, there is something wrong. No, you're a human being. And as a human being, you are put here to experience not just some emotions, all emotions, right? Because experiencing all emotions is what allows you to really get the totality of life, to understand what this life is about, to understand yourself in this vessel that you've been gifted. Right? So give yourself compassion. Give yourself grace to feel. Understand that. Give yourself grace to feel. Come on. Okay. The second thing that is quietly affecting your life is unaligned relationships, is the energy drain from unaligned relationships. The energy drain from unaligned relationships. It says, relationships deeply influence mental and emotional energy. Relationships deeply influence mental and emotional energy. Because a lot of times we lack living intentionally, we allow ourselves to just be around any and everyone. And we have no idea subconsciously how much those relationships are draining our energy, right? Because we don't bring awareness and intention into our life, we just kind of float into relationships. We end up being around all different types of people, and we have no idea how much certain people or certain relationships can drain your energy. They just constantly take. And people wonder why when they get home or after a day or whatever it is, or when they're alone, why they feel so drained or they feel like they never have energy for themselves. A lot of it is because you're around people who are not giving or pouring into you. They're only taking. They're draining your energy, right? They're draining your energy, and you have to be willing on this journey of change, on this journey of growth, to be intentional with who you're around, and to also be willing to let go of relationships that do not serve you anymore. Yes, it's incredibly difficult, but man, when you see how much certain people or certain relationships or certain environments are draining your energy, and you get away from them and you finally start to become aware of that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not realize how much this person was draining my energy. It's like an epiphany moment. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to be incredibly intentional with who I spend time around now, because I don't ever want to feel like that. Oh my gosh. And a lot of times, like I said, it's happening unconsciously. You don't even realize it until you get away from certain people. And then it's like, whoa, nah, we're not doing that. Negative or toxic relationships increase stress and reduce emotional well-being. This goes back to what we just talked about with suppressing your emotions. A lot of times we suppress our emotions because we're in negative or toxic relationships where we can't even express our emotions, right? So that's why relationships are incredibly important, and we just stay around these people because of attachments or because of time or because of familiarity, and we think this is it. And it's like, no, it's not. You don't have to be around negative and toxic people. I'm telling you, you don't. You do not have to. And I get it. Like, take it with a grain of salt, because if you're at a work environment, or you're in places where you have an obligation to be there and there are toxic people, you just have to navigate in a very aligned and intentional way. You got to be very, 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 very intentional with that. It says people pleasing leads to burnout and resentment. That's a fact. That is a fact. One of the biggest things that are quietly affecting your life is the people pleasing. Always trying to please everybody around you, always trying to gain the validation from everybody around you. And a lot of times we do this unconsciously. We do this subconsciously, right? Because like we said, your subconscious, I actually didn't say this, but your subconscious mind is programmed from childhood experiences, from the relationship you had with family or certain friends or certain things that were done to you or certain programming or conditioning from young ages, right? So when it comes to people pleasing, a lot of times we're so unconscious that we're constantly trying to people please. And because we're not conscious of it, we don't change it, and it just continuously drains our energy. And because we don't realize it's coming from our people pleasing, we start to think that there's something wrong with us, or there's something wrong with all these things externally. And so we try to change and fix all these things without getting to the root of, no, the reason you're feeling drained is because you're constantly trying to people please in every relationship, right? In every relationship. And this strikes a chord with me, because when I tell you I grew up the biggest people pleaser, it's the most draining thing. You're always trying to make sure the relationship feels good. You're always trying to make sure the other person's happy. Friends, intimate, family, whatever. You're always trying to make sure that you're not doing anything to mess up the vibe or mess up the energy. And you're just constantly draining your energy. You know how much energy that takes. Do you understand how much resourcefulness that takes to constantly be trying to move in a way where everybody likes you, where everything always feels good between you and the other person, and you're the only one doing that always? It's so draining. It's so draining. And so one of the things you're going to have to get to is to where you stop people pleasing and you just start living in your truth and your authentic self, and you allow the people that resonate with that to come closer and the people that don't to hit the road out of love too. Like, y'all got to go though. We can't keep doing that. You know what I mean? It's so draining. It's so draining. It says authenticity and vulnerability. Yeah, it says authenticity and vulnerability create connection. Dishonesty breeds disconnection. That's a fact. When you are not able to express yourself fully and be yourself, it creates dishonesty in the relationship, which leads to negative or toxic relationships, which leads to disconnection, which leads to emotional suppression, right? And this stuff happens quietly, right? Because we don't talk about it. We're not aware of it. We don't allow it to express itself. So it just constantly happens quietly in our life. And then when we explode, or we feel so drained, or we feel so down, or we're going through anxiety, or we're feeling depressed, or we're doing all these things, we don't know what the heck's going on. We don't know why we're feeling these things, right? And this is why it's so important to bring awareness to every aspect of your life, to figure out what things are really, really impacting you quietly, that are usually the root cause of why you're feeling that way, or why you're going through that thing, or why you're having all that lack of clarity within yourself. Yeah, man, be very intentional with your relationships, because it's one of the things that quietly drain our energy and affect us more than we can realize. It says boundaries are necessary for maintaining energy and peace. You got to set healthy boundaries. You have to set healthy boundaries. You have to. And when you set healthy boundaries, you have to understand that in order to truly set healthy boundaries, you have to be willing to let some people down, because not everybody's going to respect and want to uphold your boundaries. Not everybody's going to want you to instill those boundaries, right? So you have to be willing to let some people down in order to protect your peace and protect your energy and guard your heart. It's a necessity. It's a necessity, right? But understand that letting people down isn't a negative thing. It's not because, you're trying to be mean, or no. It's because you're guarding your heart. And in a society where we don't prioritize guarding your heart, when you start to do those things and protect your energy and really prioritize your peace, you have to understand you are going to let certain people down that aren't aligned with that or aren't doing that for themselves. But you have to be willing to do that, because there is nothing more painful than staying in relationships or spaces that are not serving you, that you're not meant for, that you have outgrown, that drain your energy. Oh my gosh. It's one of the worst things. Really surround yourself with supportive people that accelerate your growth, that enhance your growth, right? Be mindful and intentional with who you're around, right? Become aware of who you're around when you feel uplifted and who you're around when you feel drained, and start to be like, okay, now I'm putting pieces together. I didn't realize that this feeling of feeling drained and lacking energy actually stems from me always spending time around this person or these people, right? That's a very eye-opening moment when you start to become aware of the things that are draining your energy the most, especially people. It's a very, very eye-opening thing. It says how to navigate this topic. Evaluate your relationships, like we just said. Really identify who drains and who uplifts your energy. Simple. Set boundaries, right? Clearly communicate limits on time, energy, and emotional availability. But before you communicate that to other people, make sure you communicate that to yourself. Really get clear on your limits of time, energy, and emotional availability. Understand what you need from you and when you need that, right? There's going to be certain days where maybe you had something set up with somebody, or somebody texts you to come do something, and you have to really sit with yourself and ask yourself, am I in a place emotionally, energetically, where I should say yes to this thing, or should I say no because I need to tend to myself, right? And that's where you have to be aware of what you need from you. Be intentional of what you need from you. It says be honest, right? Go into every relationship as your authentic self, speaking your truth, because you want to know off rip if this relationship is aligned or not. You want to know off rip if this relationship is aligned or not. It says let go of guilt. It's okay to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Let go of feeling guilty for saying no. Let go of feeling guilty for saying no. It is okay to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. It is okay to say no because you need to take space for you. It is okay to pass up going out with some people or go doing that thing with that person because you just need to prioritize your energy for that day or for that week or whatever it is, or for that season. It is okay. Don't feel guilty about it, right? And every time guilt comes up, that's where self-compassion comes in. Every time shame comes up, that is when grace comes in, right? So make sure you're able to be there for you and give yourself what you need, right? Because guilt and shame, sometimes they're going to come up because you feel like you're letting a person down, or you feel like you should show up for this person, you're not able to. When those things come up, I need you to bring self-compassion and grace into that space immediately and foster that shame and guilt so that they can navigate themselves in a healthy way. But we don't need to be feeling guilty and shaming ourselves for protecting our energy, for protecting your emotional and mental well-being. You don't need to feel guilty for that. Because in order for you to show up for the people around you in the most aligned, authentic way, it's going to require you to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being, which means you're going to have to say no sometimes. You're going to have to pass up on going out sometimes or going and doing that thing sometimes. And that is okay. That is okay. It says practice discernment. This is huge. Practice discernment. Really look at your relationships and ask yourself, does this relationship add or subtract to my life? And really sit with that. Some are going to be a lot more obvious than others, right? But some you're going to have to really do a deep dive and sit with yourself and navigate that to really figure out, does this relationship add or subtract to my life? Does this relationship need to be in my life or not? Right. Let's move to number 3 of the things that are quietly affecting your life. And this is huge. Inner dialogue and self-talk. People do not realize how much your inner dialogue and your self-talk is influencing and affecting your everyday life without you even realizing it. So often our inner dialogue and self-talk is just on autopilot, and it just happens. And we just allow it to go. And we listen to it, and we just allow it to dictate everything that we do. And it's crazy. It's wild. Negative self-talk triggers stress responses and self-doubt. When you don't have a healthy relationship with your inner dialogue, when you've never taken the time to really become clear on what's going on and what's being said within yourself and to navigate that, anytime you try to do something, you try to put yourself out there, you try to grow, you try to change, immediately that negative self-talk, that inner dialogue comes in, and it just stops us in our track. It just stops us in our track. Inner dialogue often mirrors early life criticisms or societal expectations. That's so true. Our inner dialogue usually stems from what we were told from a young kid, a young child, right? And how we grew up. If you were told you're not good enough, then that's what your inner dialogue and your self-talk is going to be. No, you're not good enough. If you were told that, or you had the perception that you weren't worthy, that's what the inner dialogue and the self-talk is going to be as you grow old. If you were told that you'll never amount to anything, then that's what your inner dialogue and self-talk will be. If you experienced neglect of love or care or nurturing, that is what your inner dialogue and self-talk is going to be, right? And so it's really important to understand, what's being said within yourself and where is it coming from? And then ask yourself, is it true? Or is it something that was put on me from early experiences, right? Because I can tell you right now, you not being good enough, that is not true. You not being able to do the things you want to do, that is not true. You not being worthy, that is not true. I promise you that's not true. It is just what we've allowed ourselves to believe because of childhood experiences, certain negative things we were told by people in our life growing up, certain societal expectations that we've seen through social media and school and our environment, but it's not true. None of those things are true. It says positive self-talk increases focus and motivation. It absolutely does. Now, here's the thing about positive self-talk. Yes, it's important to speak to yourself in a positive and aligned way. It is very important to do that. But you can't just talk without changing something in your life, right? You have to really, really actively align your habits with the positive self-talk. So say that you can do it and then take steps towards doing it. Say that you are enough and then start treating yourself like you are enough, right? In your day-to-day habits, right? But it is incredibly important to become aware of that inner dialogue and that self-talk, and start to really talk to yourself as you would a friend. Talk to yourself like you're talking to your 5-year-old self. What does that person need from you, right? What does that person need from you? What does that little kid need to hear from you, right? It says harsh self-talk can lead to perfectionism and burnout. Absolutely it can. That's pretty self-explanatory. Let's talk about how to navigate self-talk and inner dialogue. Notice your inner voice. That's the first thing. Like we said, in order to change and navigate something, you have to first become aware of it. I need you to sit and become aware of what is that inner dialogue? What is that self-talk going on within myself? What is it? Don't judge it. Just become aware of it. Become aware of the limiting beliefs. Become aware of the critical self-talk that comes up. Become aware of all the negative inner dialogue that's going on. Become aware of it first. Now, after you become aware of it, I need you to start reframing and replacing. Reframing and replacing. Reframe the way, the perception and perspective that you have of your inner dialogue, of your self-talk. View it as, like I said, your inner child, your younger you, right? That's the reframing. And then I need you to replace that inner dialogue that comes up with what's aligned with the person that you're trying to be, right? So when, I can't do it, I just don't have the resources, I'm just not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm no good, or I just don't deserve love, or I just suck at it. Replace it immediately with, no, we're learning, we're growing, we can figure it out, it's going to be okay. You're not meant to be perfect. You can do it. I can help you. I'm here for you. You have my support. Literally talk to that voice like you're speaking to a dear friend, to your inner child, to a younger version of yourself that needs your love, care, and support. Speak to you in that way. Use statements like, I'm doing my best, and that's enough for right now. I'm doing my best, and that's enough for right now. I'm doing my best. I'm no good. No. I'm doing my best. We're doing our best. Even instead of saying use we, so you understand that you're speaking to your inner child, right? And that can help you to also not internalize or identify with the negative self-talk. When the negative self-talk comes up, understand, okay, that's just my hurt inner child. Let me speak to it in the way that it needs to be spoken to, all right? I'm not good enough. No, you are good enough, and we can do this together. I just don't know. Hey, it's okay not to know because we can figure it out together. Just that right there, I don't know for y'all, but just that for me gives me so much peace. And I could take a breath and know that everything is okay. Everything is okay. And that's a beautiful thing. Journal. Reflect on positive accomplishments and reinforce self-belief. Really journal right now, right? Or after this episode. Write a positive self-letter to yourself or a positive letter to yourself, right? Talk about all the times where you didn't know how you were going to make it through a situation and you made it through. Talk about all the times where you fell down or your back was against the wall or you felt like your world was crumbling and you made it through. Talk about the times where you did something and it was incredibly profound. Talk about the achievements. Talk about the things that you've made it through. Reflect on past experiences. Really write a letter to yourself. Right? I wrote a letter to myself and my future self before I went into grad school. I wrote a letter to my past self, and I told myself everything's going to work out. It's going to be okay. Right? Keep on taking steps. I know you lack clarity. I know you're incredibly depressed and anxious, and I know, things don't make sense. But if you just keep on trusting and keep on taking steps of faith and keep on just staying curious and open-minded, I promise you things are going to be okay. And then I wrote to my future self. And I asked for guidance. I asked for clarity. I asked for understanding. I asked how things ended up. Did we make it out of this rut? Write that stuff. And then one day after you've made it out, you're going to look back and find that letter and you're going to be like, wow, look at that. And then you do it again and again and again. Create mental and emotional distance. That's huge. Say to yourself, oh, I notice I'm feeling this way. I notice I'm thinking this way. Or talk to your inner child. Hey, I notice you. I hear you and I feel you. I'm with you. I notice you. Because right there it creates a separation between you and the self-talk, you and the emotions, rather than identifying with those things and feeling like you're doing something wrong. No, you're just the vessel. And in this vessel, sometimes you're going to have things that come up and you need to be able to notice it. I notice I'm feeling a little anxious. I notice you're feeling a little bit of guilt and shame. I notice you and I'm here with you. And now we can reframe and replace. Anchor yourself in positive self-talk, right? Start your day with positive self-talk, whether you need to write it on a piece of paper and look at it, sticky note, stick it on your mirror, wake up and just say, hey, we got this. It's going to be a great day, right? We're going to navigate what we got to go through. We got this one day at a time. I'm with you. Talk to yourself like that. I'm with you. I got your back, bro. I got your back, sis. We good. We got this. Come on. Let's do it. Let's move. Day by day, step by step, moment by moment. You got this. You got this. So really be mindful of your inner dialogue and self-talk and work on reframing it and create the distance so that you're not internalizing and identifying with it, right? You're not internalizing and identifying with it. And the last thing of the 4 things quietly affecting your day-to-day life is the influence of daily inputs. The influence of daily inputs. We have no idea how much media, environments, the phone, social media, all this stuff is just constantly influencing and quietly affecting our life on an everyday basis. So many people are not realizing how much it is. And I realized this previously, man. I was talking to my boy Adrian, my business partner, and I was like, bro, I realized, like, without even realizing, like, so much of my overthinking and stress just comes from when I'm always on my phone scrolling. Like, if I'm in a rut where I'm just, like, constantly on social media, constantly consuming, constantly scrolling and looking at what everybody else is doing or looking at TikToks or whatever it is, that's when I start to, get more stressed out. I start to overthink a little bit more. I start to lack clarity within myself. And I'm like, man, it's like so easy to fall into that trap. It's so easy to fall into that trap of just constantly consuming and getting all this stuff, right? It says media consumption shapes mental and emotional states. That's a fact. That's a fact. Media consumption shapes mental and emotional states. What you do frequently turns into your frequency. What you watch frequently influences your frequency. Social media algorithms prioritize sensational, fear-based content. That is a fact. You need to be mindful, right? You have to understand that social media is an algorithm, right? And the majority of what's out there is fear-based. It's low vibrational. It's sensational. It's very surface level stuff. And if you're not intentional with what you're watching, you're not intentional with the algorithm that's getting created or curated for you, then you can really start looking at stuff constantly on an everyday basis that is just programming you in a very negative and limiting way, right? It's making you start to see life through this very fear-based surface level lens, right? And it can really start to make you feel like you're behind, that you're doing something wrong, that you need to have all these external things to be successful, that your value is in the external world, right? And it's a very dangerous loop to get down, right? It's a very dangerous loop to get down. And that's where increased anxiety comes from. That's where you can start to feel depressed because you're constantly looking at everybody else thinking that you're not good. And it can create depression, right? And you start to create this false picture of the perfect life, right? And you think that everything you see on social media is perfection and you're not that. And it's just causes so much self-judgment. It causes so much resentment. It causes so much inner frustration and anxiety and overthinking and stress, and it's just a lot. So be very mindful of that. Be very mindful of the social media and media in general that you're consuming on an everyday basis, and be mindful of the algorithm that's being curated based off of the things that you're watching, right? Because I go on TikTok now and I really try my best to make the algorithm in the For You page show me things that are motivational, spiritual, uplifting. I like funny things, but stuff like that, man, like you want to be fed with that rather than always the, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, come on. It says positive content can uplift and inspire, fostering resilience. That's a fact. Fostering positivity. That's a fact. You know what I mean? Sometimes you go on social media, you see one video and it immediately inspires you and you're like, man, I'm about to get it, or I'm about to do this, or man, I needed that. You know, that's where social media is a tool, right? Where you use it, it doesn't use you, right? Be mindful of is social media using you or are you using it? Is it a tool or is it a hindrance, right? Be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. Joe Dispenza says the mind amplifies what it regularly consumes. So if you're constantly consuming negativity, if you're constantly talking about, or gossiping and complaining with people, if you're constantly consuming things that are lack or fear-based or low vibrational, whatever it is, your mind magnifies that stuff. Right? So that's what you're going to start seeing more and more. And that's what your reality is literally going to turn into. So you have to be very, very mindful of what you're regularly consuming, because like we said, what you consume frequently turns into your frequency. What you consume frequently turns into your frequency. And in life, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are, which is based off of your frequency. Right? So you can want all these positive, uplifting, abundant things. But if you're frequently consuming things that are fear-based, that are low vibrational, that are rooted in lack, that are rooted in guilt, that are judgmental, that are rooted in complaining and gossiping, you have to understand that is what you're feeding into your frequency, and that's what you're going to attract into life. So that's why you have to be very mindful of what you're consuming frequently, because it turns into your frequency, and your frequency attracts certain things based off of that into your life. So how do we navigate this topic? Audit your media diet. Identify content that drains or inspires, right? The content that drains, literally what I'll do, right? If I see something on TikTok, because that's really the only thing that I scroll on. I don't really scroll on Instagram, but if I see something on TikTok that does not align with the things I'm trying to see, I immediately say, hide this type of content from my For You page. It has that button where you can say hide this content or hide this type of content, or I don't want to see videos like this, whatever it says. Do that, right? Be intentional with that. And then the things that you do like and you do see, like it, favorite it, comment on it so you can stay on that side of TikTok. Like you'll see sometimes in comments, they'll say commenting to stay on this side of TikTok. I'm putting this in here to stay on this side of TikTok. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay on the uplifting, authentic, and aligned side of social media. Unfollow negativity, straight up. Unfollow it. And this goes into not just negativity, unfollow things that do not align. Speaking from a man's perspective, and I'm going to be real with y'all right here, I really had to start being mindful of the type of women I was following on social media, right? Like, obviously, you have childhood friends, you have people from college and stuff like that, but as you start to mature and grow, and you start to, meet different people and all these things, and people follow you and stuff like that, you got to be very mindful of who you're choosing to follow, because there's a lot of stuff on social media that where you could click on it on Instagram or whatever it is, and you could just start seeing things that are just feeding the stuff that that is not aligned with where you're trying to be, especially as a man, right? You got to be mindful of the type of women, the type of things that you are following, because it is feeding your mental and emotional states, right? It's feeding your frequency, right? So be mindful of that, for real, especially for my men out there that struggle with lust or certain things that you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get a violation or whatever, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you got to be mindful of the people and the things that you're following and watching, and have the discipline to unfollow it. And I'm speaking from experience, and I'm speaking to myself, right? Because nobody is perfect. And I'm definitely not perfect in this area by any means. But like I said, with awareness and intention, you can always take steps towards being more aligned. And something that I'm really intentional with, or trying to be more intentional with, is who am I following on social media? What am I seeing? What type of things am I looking at, right? And so That's something to be mindful of. That's something to be mindful of. Set boundaries on screen time. And this is something I really got to get better at, because this is something that I've realized is a very tough thing that I need to start navigating, especially somebody who creates content. Obviously, I post content. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, that type of stuff. It's very easy to post content and then constantly be on social media because you're on social media, right? I have to be very, very intentional with, okay, during these times, whether it's bed or first thing in the morning, I'm off my phone. I can't be on social media. I can't be constantly consuming, right? Be intentional with, your screen time. Set boundaries for what parts of the day you're going to be on social media and what parts you're not. And I really need to work on this, especially the last few weeks. I've been on social media way too much. I'm like, hold on. I'm getting into this loop of just constantly, So be mindful of that. Set boundaries of screen time. Something I really don't watch is the news. I'm just going to put that out there too. Be mindful of what you are watching in the news. The news is literally all fear-based things. And I know it's important to stay up to date with what's going on in the world, but at the same time, if it's always negative and always just limiting and always fear-based, you don't need to be consuming that all the time. You really don't. And I think there's healthier ways to consume what's going on rather than watching the news. I really do. It says replace consumption with creation. Focus on expressing rather than passively consuming. That's a fact. If you're constantly consuming all day, every day, you don't have any space to create, right? And you're a creator. And in order to change, in order to become all of who you were made to be, you need to be creating the life that you're trying to live. So really be mindful that you're not consuming more than you're creating, right? You're not consuming more than you're creating. It says seek uplifting content, podcasts, books, and media that align with your values. Very self-explanatory, but really prioritize seeking out that type of content, the content that really aligns with the person and the life that you're trying to live. Practice digital mindfulness. Be present with your media choices, asking, is this feeding my soul? Right? Is this feeding my soul? Something I like to ask is, like if I'm quick to grab my phone and I'm about to go on social media, I gotta hold. Sometimes I'll wait, hold on. What are you grabbing your phone for? What are you about to go on social media for, bro? Like for real, what is you about to go on there for? And sometimes I'll be like, shoot, nothing, just because I'm bored or just because I ain't got nothing else to do. Put it down, bruh. But then give yourself grace for the times that you do, the times that you do find yourself scrolling. Don't beat yourself up. Be like, all right, I did it. Just learn from it. It's okay. And sometimes give yourself the freedom to just scroll. Like there would be times where I'm like, I don't have nothing to do. I'm going to scroll on TikTok. I'm gonna do it. All right. Yeah. I could read. Yeah, I could. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna scroll on TikTok today. I'm just gonna do it. All right. You're a human being, bro. It's gonna happen sometimes. It's just about being intentional and aware and making sure you're making steps towards the person that you want to become. And it says be intentional. That's the last thing. Start and end your day with content that sparks gratitude and reflection, right? The moment you decide to go on social media at the beginning of the day or at the end of the night, right, whatever that time is, I suggest don't do it first thing in the morning. Like wait at least 30 minutes, like get yourself together. But when you do click on social media, like, or you go to consume media, try your best to consume something that's uplifting to start your day. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to listen to a podcast first, or I'm going to go to this, motivational page or inspiring page and take some of that content in to start my day. It can help tremendously. That's going to do it for this episode. I really hope this episode helped, you guys to just be more mindful of the things that are quietly impacting and affecting our lives so that you could just start to be more intentional and aware of it, and start to make the necessary shifts you need to make for your unique individual life. I really do appreciate you guys. I'm about to be launching my personal coaching. I think I'm going to limit it to 15 to 20 spots, so when it's out, jump on it. If not, it's all good. You can get it all right here. But I'm really excited about that because, I've obviously, like I said, I work for an organization right now and I'm a life coach for them. But I think it's time for me to, kind of go off and do my own thing. I've, gotten a lot of skills and knowledge from working in this organization. It's really helped me for, my personal career, my personal coaching. So I'm really excited to, start coaching, outside of the organization and a different demographic of people. It's gonna be a really good time, and I'm really excited for this next chapter. Me and my boy Adrian, we're still working on the school community. It should be in the bio I'll see if I can put it in the bio. If it's on there, if it's not on there, then I'm tripping. But I'll put it in there. You guys can go join that. It's free. We'll be having, live forums, live discussions, live events, Discords, courses, all on there for free. So definitely go check that out. And just continue to take it day by day, step by step. I really enjoy this space with you guys more than you guys know. It's so fun, so uplifting, so aligned. And there's so much more that we have to touch on and talk about. And I really do want to get, I'm just in a very transitioning period. A lot of things that are happening where I'm like, I got to figure out the next move. But I really do want to get more guests on the podcast. That's something I'm really going to prioritize this year, is really getting aligned, knowledgeable, accredited guest on the podcast, because I do really care about you guys. Obviously it's important to have the inspiration and the uplifting and positive content that we talk about and the things that we touch on, but it's also important to bring in people who are really knowledgeable, who have the research, who have the statistics and analytics on certain topics that can really help all of us to gain a deeper understanding of the things that we're trying to navigate. So I'm really going to prioritize that in 2025, of really getting guests on the podcast, or different, more knowledgeable guests on the podcast. And I'm really excited for it. So that's going to do it for today's episode. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I love y'all. And remember, most importantly, to take everything with a grain of salt. I will catch you guys next week.